Hi, welcome to Archaeologists Behaving Badly. I'm Belle.
I'm Raquel, and this is episode 9.
Shit.
Yeah. Already, yeah.
We're not meant to swear in the first how many minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, because apparently it bars you with something. I don't know. Something I heard in the grapevine.
Sorry.
Yeah, so India part 2.
Yeah.
It's because it's the most downloaded episode so far.
Yeah.
People seem to be really
We
wanting
are
to
going
know.
to do other countries and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we just
people were into it. So
we thought we'd do a part 2. And also that was a deep dive for both of us. We knew all.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I swore again. And I did it again. It's fine.
It is called Archaeologists Behaving Badly.
That is true.
Not that swearing is really behaving badly.
No. But yes, it all carries on. So yes, I'm starting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, wait. Before you start, I wanted to talk about something that relates to the last episode and your topic. So
I just had to.
what was the last episode?
Wait,
what did I talk about?
Yeah.
It has been a few weeks.
Yeah. Xibalba, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point in the past few weeks, I watched Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons.
I love those
and
movies.
Inferno. Yeah, me too. I'm a big quest type.
Me too.
Yeah. I don't play video games. We've talked about that before. Raquel does. But if I did play video games, it would just be quest games.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's it.
And those movies are so fun.
They're really fun.
They're so fun.
So anyway, in Inferno, there was something that related to Xibalba, which I thought was really interesting. So Inferno is the first part of an epic poem by the Italian writer, 14th century Italian writer, Dante Alighieri.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know his last name.
Alighieri, something. And Inferno describes Dante's journey through hell, which is depicted as 9 concentric circles of torment.
I didn't realize it was
inside
9.
Earth.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And I couldn't remember when you talked about Xibalba, if that was 8 or 9.
9, yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So like early 1300s. And I'd written like his sort of description of it is like structurally based on the ideas of Aristotle. But in his 9 levels or whatever, 1 was limbo, 2 was lust. So, and in the lust level, people's souls would be battered by like wind for eternity.
Okay. It's a weird connection. Like, what's the connection there?
I don't know.
That's weird, yeah.
Level 3 is gluttony, and they would get like a dirty storm of rain and snow forever.
Okay.
So like the punishments don't relate to it, but just the 9 levels thing.
Yeah. And also like the punishments.
Yeah.
And like the
They're being different.
Different punishments on different levels. Yeah.
4 was greed, and you were forced to push masses of weight for eternity. 5 is wrath. You were either forced to battle each other, or you would be buried in mud to choke on your anger.
Oh.
6 was heresy. You would be put in tombs encased in flames. 7 was violence, and there was within 7, 8, and 9, there was like levels within them with different punishments for the different types of. So for different types of violence, it would be like 1 was you would be submerged in boiling blood.
Shit.
1 was you would be pecked at by bird women. Or attacked by dogs. Like there's different punishments. 8 was fraud. Again, multiple things. The only one I wrote was you would be stood head first, like upside down in a stone bowl with flames burning your feet. So random.
Okay.
But,
very specific.
Yeah, for like different types of fraud. And then 9 was treachery, which Seems like I didn't finish writing, so that seems to be a common thing for me. But treachery, like all types of like deceit and betrayal, and like you would be punished harsher if your betrayal was to somebody that you had entered a voluntary engagement with. So rather than like someone in your family, being treacherous against someone you had voluntarily entered into an agreement with was worse than doing something against someone you were born into having to be loyal to or whatever.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then I think the next level was where Satan was. Or maybe Satan was in
like
9.
Like the final boss. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went down a little because it said structurally based on the ideas of Aristotle. So Aristotle didn't write anything, well, that I could find, might be completely wrong, but wasn't anything about like levels in hell or anything. But he, like his ideas of matter and form, so basically like physical and non-physical, actually fed into and kind of changed the Jewish religion and informed Christianity basically. So there was no like heaven and hell in the original biblical text.
Okay, yeah.
So First Testament, there's no heaven and hell. There's no soul. There was no like life after death. So there
was nowhere to go. So kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Aristotle's ideas about
sorry, I just have to move
plastic on the floor. Yeah, Aristotle's ideas about matter and form kind of informed these ideas of like the soul, basically, and that's heaven and hell came out of that because it's like if you had suffered in life, then you were rewarded in death, or if you had
because I guess if you've suddenly got a soul, then where do you go? Like
you have to go somewhere. You have to go somewhere. Once your body dies.
Yeah. If that's a thing, then what happens to you?
But the matter dies. Your form has to go somewhere else. So
interesting. I didn't realize that. I don't know anything.
Oh my God. I just missed my mouth drinking wine somehow. I didn't think I was drunk already. Just not very coordinated. But I thought that was so interesting about the 9 levels and
could it be that maybe, I mean, who knows, maybe it was influenced? I mean, if you think about that time period, you have a lot of...
Well, I couldn't remember and I didn't have, I had intended on re-listening to the episode and where that came from and what time period, if that existed prior to the Europeans arriving or was it?
I have to go back to.
Yeah.
I think
guys.
It would be pretty close. Like I have to go back. Because I can't remember the century.
Yeah.
Was it the 14th century, 13th century? It sounds like around the same time.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if if he maybe borrowed that idea of, and it would kind of make sense as well. You've got like the clergy and, they move around. They expect, there'd be a lot of intermingling or like interchanging of concepts and I mean
amongst the genocide.
Amongst the fucking genocide, yeah.
Or if it's entirely possible that
it's a coincidence.
Completely different cultures in completely different parts of the world had by coincidence very similar ideas of the afterlife.
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't really. I mean, I've heard of Dante's like Inferno, but I never really put the connection.
Yeah, and I'd watched the movie before, but I think I watched it maybe like a week after we did the episode.
So it was like in fresh. Is there a connection? Yeah, that's cool. If you have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, we talked about the Mayan underworld
Yeah.
last episode and the 9 levels of the underworld there, Xibalba, and all the crazy shit that you had to go through
Yeah.
going through that, like pus
Yeah.
and
Was
blood.
it Rivers of Pus?
Yeah, rivers of pus. Sounds beautiful. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So I guess starting with India.
Yeah.
I found this out recently, and I can't believe I've only recently found this out because everyone else seemed to know about it and I didn't. And I explained this like last time we did the Indian episode, but I'm half Indian and I know fuck all. I know fuck all about my heritage.
Why has that happened?
It just has. I don't know. I haven't like really grown up with my Indian family very much. You know, we've lived in separate cities. So I haven't really had that influence, I guess. And my mom doesn't really know anything either, even though she should probably definitely know more than me since she's Indian. Oh, there we go. Got the chiming.
There might be some chimes happening.
Yeah.
There's always a million clocks in here and some of them are noisy.
Yeah. Probably won't be the first time that happens. Anyway, so I don't know if you know this, but chess.
Probably not. I can already say.
I feel like
not.
that's us every time we sit here. But chess was, or its precursor, originated in India.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. I just always kind of thought it was
I thought it was Middle Eastern.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was Middle Eastern, then kind of became really popular when the European influence kind of took it on. But no, it was originally actually Indian, and then the Middle Eastern took it from them, and then Europe took it from the Middle East kind of.
Interesting.
And it kind of spread out. So in the 7th century AD, the game, which we know as chess, or its precursor, was called, here we go, Chaturanga.
Okay.
Which translates to 4 divisions, so of military, infantry, 4 divisions of the military, being infantry, cavalry, elephantry, and chariotry. So you were playing this game with military, so divisions of military basically, which is basically what chess is.
Yeah.
And it spread to Persia, which then spread through the Arabian Empire, then to Africa, Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe. Then the Vikings spread it back to their homelands in Scandinavia and then took it to England.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's what they think pretty much happened. I think that's the general consensus.
Yeah.
So I was doing a little bit of research and I didn't realize that over the centuries, chess was banned a lot of times by a lot of different people. It was...
Why? Because it was too strategic, or?
So it was banned for religious purposes, including, so the people that banned it included rabbis, popes, and Muslim religious leaders, all throughout history.
But what was that?
So
I mean, we all know they banned a whole bunch of stuff that with not very great reasons.
No,
but what was the reason for chess?
Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of them. So kings throughout Europe, such as England, Poland, France, and Russia, banned it. King Louis IX just hated the game so much that he banned it. And he even put a fine on people who played it. So
me as a king banning cricket?
Yeah. So
just because I hate it?
Yeah. So he just clearly was probably just really fucking bad at it and just hated it so much that he just felt so strongly about it that put a fine to people if they were caught playing it. The Knights Templar were banned from playing it for a time. A monk and Byzantine canonist excommunicated chess players at one point. It seems like a lot of bishops and archbishops and priests didn't like it, or they didn't like their priests playing it. although in 1125 AD, there was a priest that invented the fold-up chessboard so he could secretly keep playing it with his friends
Wow.
without people knowing it. So we're talking like from pretty much the 7th century all up until,
That's cool.
the Middle Ages. People
That's why
from
chessboards fold up.
Yeah, and like people from all over, like random kings and religious leaders had periodically banned it for either personal, just weird reasons, or, I mean, I can't, like, as a religious like leader, why would you feel so? Maybe because of like gambling. Maybe if you like used it as like a way of like, oh, I bet you that I can win this game.
Is gambling a problem in religion?
I think they don't like it. I think that's the thing that's pretty.
I don't know enough about religion.
Yeah, me neither.
Did bishops ban it because they're a fucking character on the chessboard?
Maybe, yeah. That's a really good point. I didn't even think. Just like, yeah, caught your bishop. What you gonna do now? Yeah, good point. Maybe, but yeah, I thought that was really random.
Yeah.
Of all things to be banned for or excommunicated for, if you were caught playing chess.
So I wonder. I mean, is your chess talk still going?
No, that was
Okay,
it.
that was it.
Yeah.
I just want to. Well, I will go and have to find out more about how it was created because it's come from India.
Yeah.
Like, how long were they playing it there before it first went to Persia? Or
No idea. I
Yeah.
think, like, from what I could gather, I think the first kind of evidence they can find it was from the 7th century. And so I guess, yeah. And then the Persians are like, this is sick, let's bring this back. And then the Vikings were like, sick, let's take this back. And now
Wild.
everyone plays chess. I love
So
chess.
I have an interesting chess story.
Ooh. Here we
Things
go.
I never thought I'd say out loud, which I actually didn't tell you about in our catch up because I forgot about it. But my little brother is 12 and he is obsessed with chess.
You've told me this before. Apparently
Yeah.
he's really good.
He's very good. Like he trains basically
That's
every
crazy.
day. And I think it started during COVID. Dad taught him how to play chess 2 years ago, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but now he's at a point where so when he plays Dad now, often he plays blindfolded.
What?
Yeah. So they've got like letters and numbers on the thing. So he plays blindfolded. So Dad will tell him
Oh, like BAT.
pawn
or- yeah.
6 to from A7 to
Yeah.
B8 or whatever. And Zeno plays the whole game like that.
That's
And
crazy.
9 times out of 10 beats Dad now. So
So he's a genius.
yeah. Well, he's very good at chess. Last Saturday or the one before, his mum had some work to do in Melbourne, so he came down with her to spend the day with me, and it was suggested to me to take him to the State Library because they have those chess boards outside.
Yeah.
I thought of all these things. Let's go to the movies. Let's go to an arcade. Let's like go shopping. Let's whatever. But we went first as soon as I met up with him, we went to the chess boards at the State Library they have like plastic chess pieces. that are,
Yeah.
like, this big.
So like it's like in a public space where it's like on the floor, it's a giant chessboard and they've got like giant chess pieces and you play with like, random people and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah. So we went there at 10 a.m. and we left at 3 p.m.
Jesus.
So we made friends
That
with
was
this like crazy old man and we hung out with him for like a lot of the day. And like I think they only played one game and the guy was like, oh, okay. Like,
Oh, I see what's going on
yeah.
here.
So then he told us so upstairs at the State Library, there's like a chess space and a chess library.
Oh, what?
And people just go there and play chess against random people. And yeah, it actually was really awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I never thought I could contently watch 5 hours of chess,
was
but
gonna
I
say.
did. And
How'd you go?
well, very early on, like when I saw my brother doing his thing, I like was sitting there like having a bit of a cry because I was so
Aw.
proud, and
Aw.
he's just so good at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you
Yeah.
have to have a pretty specific brain to be able to like, because that's fucking hectic.
To be
Doing
good at it, to like
blind.
train at it.
Yeah, and he's young, you know.
Yeah. So the goal is that he basically becomes a chess grandmaster like by the age of 20.
That's awesome.
So that's what we're working towards.
That's awesome. India is like the top, like one of the top chess people in the world. Like people who play chess, like they're like it's a big thing like over there.
No, I was just laughing at your India is one of the top chess people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I knew what you meant.
Yes.
Everyone listening knew what you meant.
Yeah, sometimes I don't have enough words to really articulate what I really want to say. Anyway, yes, it's a big thing over there. I remember, like my dad taught me how to play chess really early. I was probably 5, when I started playing chess, and it's something that we did quite often when I was a kid. I've always had a chessboard at home, but I haven't played. It used to be one of my little like party tricks or like,
That you could play
that I
chess.
could play chess. And like, you'd have like one of the boys, like one of my friends in high school would be like, no, I can beat you. And I'd always beat them, but I'm not that good at all. Not even remotely, but
I'm going to start playing because, so when we went upstairs, so the crazy old guy that we were hanging out with for a few hours introduced us to this other guy who is known as like one of the best chess players in Melbourne. He's Colombian. He maybe it's like 60 something, but like so smartly dressed, like really neat goatee. He was wearing like a wide brimmed hat and had like a bow tie and stuff.
Oh,
like
wow.
very, very,
Very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in a quirky way.
Yeah.
And he was really good. And so we went upstairs in the State Library and they played each other.
Here we go.
Ding. They played each other and sort of did some kind of lessons, and we were talking about chess and whatever. I don't know anything about chess. I don't play chess. And he said to me, you should start playing chess. There's nothing more dangerous than a beautiful woman who knows how to play chess.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, I need to start playing chess now.
You sold me.
Yeah.
Have you watched The Queen's Gambit?
I actually haven't. I think I'm going to have to now.
It's really good. I actually didn't finish it in the end. I don't know why. I think it just kind of, I had other stuff to do and it kind of just got lost. But I think I watched probably I think I watched over half of it. It's really good. It's really well made. And it definitely makes you want to
know how to play chess.
Yeah. And she's such a badass in it. Like she's so good. It's a really good game. I think it's just good for like mental fortitude. I don't know. It's you just have to, you force yourself to think a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I think it's really fun. And if you're competitive, even better, you know.
Yeah.
But I never knew any
I'm not
tricks.
particularly competitive. But
Nah, fucking whatever. I passed, take it. Done.
Oh.
Cool. So I'm going to talk about some cave art
Cool.
in India.
Awesome.
Because
I don't know anything about cave art in
I didn't know that there was much of that there and that was a thing. So, when I think of cave art, I think about Southern Europe, Africa, Australia. We've got
a lot
here. I think Victoria is one of the – I think Victoria has the most rock art.
Really?
But we keep it secret because obviously we don't want it to be destroyed or vandalized or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I have heard that we've actually got I think we've got the most. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I heard. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't think of India basically when I think of cave art.
We don't hear about it much.
No, you don't. It turns out India has a ton of cave art, but not just ancient rock art, but also medieval rock art in caves. So they've got both. And I've never really considered that. Medieval, like paintings and rock art and stuff. I've never considered that was a thing, but of course, that's a good place to do it. If anything, So one of the most so I did this research a while ago, and I'm rereading my notes for the first time. So I have to bear with me because I'm having to remember what it was. But one of the most impressive sites is called the Bimteka cave paintings, which is actually a group of over 700 different caves and shelters.
Wow.
So it's a whole cave
even without
system.
the art.
I know, like even that
I
in
just
itself.
love a cave.
Yeah.
A cave system.
Love it. And you've worked in caves in Africa, right?
South Africa,
yeah. And so the Bimteka cave paintings, or that with the cave system, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, obviously, which is great. And it makes up paintings. So paintings date as far back as the Upper Paleolithic period.
Wow.
Yeah, which is between 40,000 to 10,000 years ago.
That's old.
That's old. And depicting lots of scenes of animals and people foraging and hunting. I'll put some photos up. So, yeah. I've got my things mixed up.
Raquel's cards are out of order.
They're
Also,
totally out
Raquel
of
has
order.
like 40 cards and I've got 3, which one of them's already been used. So
It's fine.
Cool.
It's going to be fine. It's gonna be fine. And the scenes become, so the cave painting scenes become more and more complex and are mostly made of red and brown figures using ochre and blood. So as the pigment, like in the
using
cave system.
blood as the pigment.
Yeah. There was a news article from the Hindustan Times that stated that the rock art cave at the Avali mountain ranges, so a different place, are 20 to 30,000 years old. But it doesn't say, this is another thing, it doesn't say how it got those dates. So they claim that at this other place in India, 20,000 to 30,000 years old is the date range for these cave art paintings. But they don't say how they got those dates. And that's another thing you really need to look out for when,
when you're reading anything.
And this
not just about archaeology, but anything in general.
Yeah, anything in general.
I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah. You have to be careful.
Data can be manipulated.
Totally, yeah. And because I was really interested to see what analysis or analyses did they do? And this is how they justified it. They go, they said that they got those dates because this is something that can be established through archaeological dating. Experts also use qualitative techniques by comparing the cave art to other cave art. So that's not very scientific.
No.
In a sense of,
and also, what's archaeological dating?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, oh, we used archaeological dating. Whatever that means, just keeping it super vague, So basically they could be using really amazing techniques. They also could not be using really amazing techniques. Right. We don't really know. It's just a good guess. But it's still pretty cool. So all throughout India, all these mountain ranges, all these cave systems, apparently it's everywhere.
Awesome. The cards are out of order again?
I think so. No, it's not. Then there's also medieval caves, which were generally man-made caves, so they weren't actually using natural caves. Mm-hmm. They were making man-made caves, and they made frescoes painted onto wet plaster. So they created a plaster kind of thing, and they are absolutely beautiful. Okay. Yeah, look it up. It is insane. I'm going to definitely put some...
I'm going to have to... just realised I had no... internet.
Oh, interwebs.
but I am going to look them up and we will put some pictures up.
Yeah, it's insane. They're so beautiful. And they generally depict aspects of, oh, that's another ding, culture, like religious themes, court life, feasting, men and women at work, processions and natural scenes, as well as of plants and animals. There's so much detail in them. They're so beautiful. And I never really kind of considered that, we think of cave art and we think of ancient cave art.
Only.
So
what was this one?
So just type in Indian medieval cave art. So definitely look it up. If you're like an art lover, and look it up. It's pretty incredible. That's all I have. That's all I had for the cave art part. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to let you go next.
Okay. So this is the first time it's happened where, because we don't talk to each other about what we're going to do, really.
No, yeah.
I think maybe in the first couple we checked with each other, and then since then we're like, nah, we'll just choose different stuff always. So we just haven't checked. And then we've sort of done the same thing but a little bit different. So I did a very short 2-card notes thing while I was at work today on Ashoka. And Raquel has done something similar but more on
a particular aspect of it. So I think that there might be a little bit of overlap. So you go first and then I'll fill in some gaps maybe.
And I'm just going to fill up my glass.
Definitely needed. The most, I know, I'm lagging.
Well,
What's
you've
happening?
been talking.
Yeah, that's
I've
true.
been listening, so I've just been.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
You need it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ashoka.
I think it's Ashoka. I don't know.
Ashoka. I have thought about, as an aside, us not pronouncing things correctly, and if that's offensive or not.
Maybe. I mean, we try though. It's not
We
like
try.
we and I also try and look, Wikipedia is sometimes really good with that because
With
they
the
give you the phonetics. So I try and do that, but sometimes it's a little bit, I don't know, it's not so clear, but I do try. And it's actually something I'm going to talk about a bit later again. I have the exact same issue and I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking about it today and I was like, is that actually offensive? And then I was thinking, if somebody was talking to me or I was listening to something and they were pronouncing words in English incorrectly, that wasn't words or names or whatever, and they weren't saying it correctly,
I definitely wouldn't find it.
I wouldn't find it offensive.
I wouldn't find it offensive.
But I don't know. I feel like
is giving it a go? Like, is that? I think that's nice. I think people respect that. Like, giving it a go, and we're trying. Yeah,
we're trying.
We're trying our best. We're trying,
We're
and
trying
also
our
like
best, guys.
we're
drunk.
Also. Also, that's a very big factor in this that we do need
Even if we have looked up how to say it properly, by the time we actually get to saying it, we're like,
oh my God, the lack of words that I have in my brain, it's going to get better. And I feel like maybe it's getting a little bit better, but yeah, there's definitely a lack of vocab happening.
Yeah. And the more you drink, the less connection there is from here to what's coming out.
Well, that's our excuse and I'll stick to it. So,
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So Ashoka, or Ashoka the Great, was a 3rd century emperor of the Maurya Empire. No, not 3rd century, 3rd emperor of the Maurya Empire. So he reigned from 268 to 232 BCE.
Yeah.
His empire covered a large part of the Indian subcontinent, stretching from Afghanistan in the west to Bangladesh in the east.
Mm-hmm. It's a big area.
Yeah, big area. With its capital at Pataliputra.
Mm-hmm. Don't look at me. And you think I would have some kind of a little bit of...
Pataliputra, question mark? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, dude, fucked if I know.
No, I'm definitely not. He's notable for a few reasons, but one is that he's credited with playing an important role in the spread of Buddhism across Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying like I know that because I said it to him already? Yeah. That's so interesting.
Oh my God, interesting.
I didn't know that already. So most information about him comes from his Brahmi edicts, which you are going to talk about.
Yeah.
Which are some of the oldest inscriptions of ancient India.
Mm-hmm.
So he would basically spread his messages to the people with carvings in rocks and pillars. And that's, I think, what you were kind of focusing on.
Yep.
Like the actual archaeology of him. Because I couldn't find anything about his burial or like anything about that.
No, I think it's just too long ago and something that in an area
that's think that someone like him would have been buried in a significant place.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, but maybe it was too early before. Actually, no, well, Buddhism was like spreading then, so like you'd think that like I don't know. It's I just a quick side note. One of the on site today, one of the tradies that I was working with randomly brought this up. He was talking about Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
And how he was
Chinggis Khan.
Oh, is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. See, you know how to, there you go.
I only know that because my sister did some volunteer work in Mongolia and she was like, it's Chinggis Khan.
Chinggis Khan. There you go.
Actually, in Blood and Treasure.
Oh my God, I have to.
Have you watched season 2?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they talk about that.
Really?
It's Chinggis Khan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I keep fucking forgetting about that. I need to watch that.
You need to watch that.
Another like silly.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
But it's really fun.
It's so bad, but it's so good. Anyway, he just randomly, I don't know, he was just talking to me randomly in the crib rooms, and he was like, "Oh yeah, they've never found his burial place, and like 500 people have 5 different like theories on it, and they think that they even killed the people that buried him, like the place, so like they have no idea." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've never heard of that. Like I've never heard of where he was actually buried, or if there was, because we would talk like in one of the first episodes that we did, the first episode we did.
Yeah, I talked about Timur.
Yeah, Timur, and how they know where he's buried. But like why?
Was that Uzbekistan?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, Uzbekistan, I think. Yeah. But like why haven't we found where Genghis Khan was buried? Like you'd think that would be a big thing. Yeah. But things do just get lost, and you know, especially
we could do a whole episode on like the greatest leaders or whatever who
have never been found.
Yeah,
there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry. Digress.
Don't be sorry. I need to bulk out my talk somehow. Blah, blah, blah. Ashoka was the grandson of the dynasty's founder, Chandragupta, and the son of Bindusara, who was also like a king. After his father's death, Ashoka supposedly killed 6 of his brothers to ascend to the throne.
Yeah.
So he...
a pretty brutal guy.
Really wanted to be king. Real bad.
I wonder if he was the youngest, like, or if he was just like, nah, I just don't want any, like, I don't want there to be any
competition
whatsoever. Just fucking get rid of them.
They're your brothers.
I know. But that happened so much.
Yeah, I know. I find it very difficult to fathom, but
I'm currently reading.
I'm also a pacifist.
Also, we live in very different times. I would be very concerned if anyone that we know had those thoughts. That would be fucking weird. I'm currently reading this book that I found at like a second-hand book place. It's called Cleopatra and Antony, and it's about...
Cleopatra and Antony?
Yeah, but it's about like her. Like I'm only like a part way into it. Ooh, another chime, and about like her, like the Ptolemy family,
Mhm.
and about like her great 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 grandfather, and it goes through till you get to her, and there's like so many different, like hundreds of years of like, you know. And it's just fucking brutal, man. Like brothers and sisters are constantly fucking killing each other,
Or
husbands
fucking.
and wives, or fucking, or and
both.
fucking both, you know, fucking and also killing each other. And it was just like this constant thing. And you know, and I was thinking about it like back then, when you're in a place of power, or you grow up in a, you know, you grow up in a family of power, that's what you have to contend with and
Yeah.
deal with and go through and physically do. It's just a norm for them.
Yeah.
You know? Your grandfather did it, your father did it, your great grandfather, you know, it's just, it's crazy.
We live in very cushy times.
Very cushy times.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. So his edicts state that in 260 BCE, after the brutal Kalinga War, the destruction caused by the war made him repent violence, basically. So Kalinga didn't have, it was a historical region of India, and it's an area on the eastern coast. At the time, it was an independent feudal kingdom, and he wanted control of it. I think his dad had tried to invade and failed, so he wanted to.
Yeah, it's like a dynasty thing. It's
Yeah.
just like, you know, well, my father wanted to,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
He
the
failed at
thing.
it, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
get it done.
Get it done.
And like one of the reasons was that Kalinga controlled the coastline for trade.
Yeah.
Throughout like the Bay of Bengal.
Yeah.
The war was supposedly one of the deadliest battles in Indian history, costing around 250,000 lives. But that's what was written on his
Edicts. Yeah.
which might be a little bit of propaganda.
Yeah, it might be a little bit inflated.
Because that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. And you think back then, for a small feudal kingdom, that's a lot.
It was a big area, but
That's true.
yeah.
Still, it's hard to comprehend. I find it really, I struggle to comprehend. It's a lot of people, and like spaces and filling up those spaces, and how much war and famine and death rate, like how populated were these areas actually?
Yeah.
But it does sound a little bit inflated, but I'm sure it was huge.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Did they count everything? You know what I
bodies?
mean? Like, did they
count all the bodies?
Did they count all the bodies?
Where did they write down those tallies?
Yeah.
So there's not really a famous war in world history where it completely changed the heart of the victor from cruelty to piety the way that war did, regardless of how many people died. Like there's not most people who win wars just want
more.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
So essentially the story is that he was so horrified by what he experienced and saw in the war.
What he ordered. Yeah.
What he ordered, what he wanted to happen.
Yeah.
That at some point afterwards he was drawn towards Buddhism. I read something that was like he was already kind of technically Buddhist, but wasn't like engaged with the religion.
Yeah. He'd been like, I think he'd been, exposed to it.
Yeah. Because I also read something else that said he kind of was in touch with a couple of other religions that were in India at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not quite sure. But whatever happened, he basically devoted the rest of his life to nonviolence and to Dharma. And he ended the military expansion of the empire after that point. And
I mean, he had a pretty decent region as it was by then. You know what? I don't think he really needed any more.
No.
Anyway.
But yeah, for one war to like completely change
Totally.
the course of your...
I can't think of another instance where that's happened so, obviously.
But this is also according to those texts. So it's you
have to be
actually don't 100% know what reality is.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Buddhist legends don't mention the Kalinga War at all. They just say that he converted to Buddhism after being either dissatisfied with other religions or after witnessing miracles performed by Buddhist leaders.
But don't you think that's also a little bit of propaganda on the Buddhist behalf?
Of
being
course.
like, oh no, it wasn't because something terrible happened. It's because you saw the lights, you know? Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that he only existed in the Buddhist legends for 2,000 years. Like, as a character, he only existed in those stories.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't considered like a real historical king.
Yeah.
Until the Brahmi scripts were deciphered. In the 19th century.
Yeah, they didn't think that he was actually real for a really long time.
Yeah.
Until some guy was like, oh, I can read this now. And turns out he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they connected the scripts to Buddhist legends, he like then was like immediately established as one of the greatest.
Yeah. So like literally very recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the last 100 years.
Yeah. Like, oh, this guy, he
was
amazing.
kings of all time.
Yeah.
In India.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of only the Buddhist folklore.
Yeah.
Or his edicts.
Yeah.
That's all, which is his, not military, but like royal propaganda.
Yeah.
That's all there is.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah. What was the last sentence I wrote? Oh, just from Wikipedia. That the emblem of the modern Republic of India is an adaptation of the lion capital of Ashoka.
Oh, really? I didn't know that at all. So
when we can put those images up.
Yeah, 100%. We'll put them up here. He was, I think that is super interesting that we actually thought for such a long time that he was just this complete mythical kind of, there was this mythical king who became so pious and, did all these really good things. And we actually didn't believe that until literally the last 100 years. It's crazy.
There actually was someone
who
was horrified by what they saw at war.
Yeah.
And regardless of how many people died or whatever, like, I'm pretty sure the consensus is there was a king.
Yeah.
And he,
did some shit.
after a massive war, was like, oh, this doesn't feel very good.
Yeah. That actually works perfectly because I talk about those actual edicts that they found and what they said and some of the things that he was known to do and like how that actually works perfectly because it ties in exactly what you said. So...
Phew.
Yeah. Yeah, thank God. I was just like, oh, fuck, we've done the exact same thing. So a little bit of background with him that I found. So when he was... Okay, sorry, I have to go through and just take out what you've said.
And remember, Raquel wrote this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I wrote this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So during his time, before the Battle of Kalinga and, up until that point when he was a ruler, he was actually known to be an incredibly violent and cruel person and did things such as...
So he could go into a cruel rulers episode.
Yeah, he could definitely go into cruel. That's exactly what I thought, actually, when I was like, yeah.
When I read that he killed...
Here we go again. Yeah.
How many times... Are we like going...
It's been an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gone off...
Many times.
Many times.
Many times. So when his ministers were clearly starting to get a little bit worried about Ashoka's reign, he ordered them as a test of loyalty to cut down every single flower and fruit-bearing tree that exists.
That's rude.
In the entire, so fucking rude, in the entire world. And obviously...
In the entire world?
Yeah, he was like, everything that exists. He's like, every fruit-bearing tree that exists and every flower, you have to cut them down. Like, go. Basically do it. Right? And obviously, they failed, clearly. So he personally cut off each of their heads, all 500 of them.
Oh my goodness.
So,
now that's what's rude.
Yeah, that's fucking rude, yeah. And then another thing that he apparently did, and like you'll see like a bit of a pattern here. Like these are clearly folklore, like stories or whatever. But another one was he burned 500 of his concubines to death because they showed clear signs that they were not interested in him. Which I just find like a really funny story about. Even if it's
the fragile male ego.
Yeah, the fragile male ego is exactly. And like that's what they want to go after. Like, yeah, well, they weren't interested in him. So like,
how rude.
So he built a jail called Ashoka's Hell, which apparently looked really beautiful from the outside. It was a really beautiful building. But on the inside, he enjoyed brutally torturing prisoners. And I think I read somewhere that a Chinese traveler in the 5th century AD actually found the spot of the jail. And he wrote about it. So he wrote about actually during his travels, obviously Buddhism traveling and is like, traveling around, found the spot. And I don't know how he knew. Maybe there was people knew about it or maybe there was some kind of like whatever, but it was still there, or the spot was still there and it was still known as the place where that jail was. So there's like a continuing kind of legacy of physical places. So he, that he wasn't just this mythical being, You don't know obviously if these stories are true or not, but I guess they illustrate how fucked he was or how like fucked people thought he was, in Indian culture.
Or how much. So some of what you've got is from what he's had written?
I don't know. I don't know where these stories come from. It doesn't sound like...
Because maybe earlier in his reign, he would have been putting stuff out like, I'm a fucking crazy, hard ass, like...
I'm a crazy guy.
And then it just changed over time. And he's like, oh, no.
Actually...
Sorry, guys. Be nice to one another.
So then obviously after he has as you said, after he had the Kalinga battle at Kalinga and he had this like 180, he completely changed. He became really pious. He found Buddhism, or he took on Buddhism solely, like, properly. He decided to write these, what they call the rock edicts, but they're all over the place kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But one of the most well-known ones is the Rock Edicts of Kelsey, which is a group of rock inscriptions, 1 to 14, written by him at around 250 BCE.
Okay.
So after the battle ended, he took on Buddhism.
That was like 10 years before? 9 years before?
Yeah. He decides to pretty much erect these big, massive, and these are huge. They're enormous rock structures, basically, with these like writings, these inscriptions on them. And they were placed pretty strategically, what looks like around trade routes or pilgrimage routes.
Okay.
So they're pretty
That's how you spread the word.
That's how you spread the word back then. That's exactly how you did it. People passed it. That's where you get the most traffic. Makes sense. So these inscriptions were written on solid quartz in Brahm script, like you were talking about. And they, these ones at Kelsey had two faces. The inscriptions were on two faces, and on the third face was a solid quartz, a picture of an elephant. And it was discovered in 1850 by a British archaeologist called Alexander Cunningham. Discovered, sorry. Well, yeah, it had been completely, I think he had actually excavated it. Okay. So it wasn't just, it wasn't there. It was underground. It was underground, I'm pretty sure. Still, yeah. No, still, totally. So for a bit of background, the edicts are summarized. Hang on. Wait.
This'll teach you for doing too much research and doing too much writing and having too many cards.
I know.
Why can't you just be lazy like me?
Okay, so for a bit of background, the edicts are summarized as being basically words and rules to live by.
Okay.
By Ashoka himself. And when I was reading this, I was reading this particular, I think it was a book or a journal article or something. It was definitely like published. So this isn't just some random person. It was definitely a published thing of someone going through it and justifying that the inscriptions sound like they are from him himself, like the way that the words, like the way that it's written, it sounds very personal, and it doesn't sound like just it's not like just like Hammurabi's code, you know, it's not just like rules. There's a lot of personality and a lot of I don't know how to describe that, but there's more emotion to it basically. Right. So the edicts are summarized as one of them. He asks that no living being are to be slaughtered or offered in sacrifice, nor any festivals to be held except for a few that he likes. So, you know, just for a couple that he's like really into, that's fine. But otherwise, he's not into people killing each other. So like, you shouldn't kill anyone, and you shouldn't sacrifice anything.
I don't eat pig, but I love Christmas ham.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to eat Christmas ham on Christmas.
Dude, that's totally what it sounds like. That's exactly what it fucking sounds like. That's so funny. And for food, no animals to be used as meat except for deer and 2 peacocks, although he warns that he'll change that soon. So he goes, at the moment, you can eat deer and 2 peacocks, but I am changing those rules soon. So like, get in quick, basically.
Watch out.
Watch out.
Peacock.
Yeah, I don't know. That was like a random like thing that he specifically talks about.
I mean, I just don't think of peacocks as like meat animals. No, but
I guess when you're like
any animal, I
guess, yeah. He wants to make sure that medical treatments and herbs are available everywhere in his empire, and will grow these in places where they don't naturally grow. So like free medical, basically. So he's basically saying, I want every area to have the medical supplies or the herbs or whatever to make sure that even if they don't grow there naturally, they'll be produced there, so that, you know, everyone has access to them.
Well, that's nice.
That is nice. Another one is to respect it. Well, considering his background. Yeah. Another one is to respect your elders, your parents, and your whole family. He pretty much says he's seen a lot of that recently, and he's super proud of everyone. So he literally says, he's like, well, I've been going through the empire, and I've heard a lot of people have been respecting their elders and their family, and you've done a good job, basically.
I feel like, and maybe this is very ignorant of me, but I feel like that is a part of a lot of South Asian culture today. That's not, I mean, I'm sure it's a part of a lot of different cultures that aren't white. Obviously, white culture whatever that means, is the one I'm
bit of a
most
blanket.
familiar with.
Yeah.
Where if you look at like here or various places in Europe, like your elders,
Respect your elders. And
it's not really as much of a thing.
no, I think, and it's especially these small family units and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Here and
Yeah.
the States and Europe, it's much more of a like, just put them in a home. I don't want to think about them.
Look,
As a
that's
cultural,
terrible, but
no, it's awful. But as a
true.
cultural thing, it's much
true.
more normal.
It's true.
Whereas
You know, yeah.
any friends I have, basically of any other culture than
Yeah, you know,
European descendants,
you look after your elderly.
Mhm.
You live with them.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're totally right. I was actually talking about that randomly weeks ago. But yeah, about how that's actually a cultural like thing that still happens today in certain like cultural groups. Like, but for me, for instance, like that's not something that is a norm. You know, we're not expected to live with our elderly and like
Yeah.
look after them kind of thing. But yeah, totally.
as a general. Does it go off every 15 minutes?
It must go off every 15 minutes. Like, it must. He also says doing the right thing or the good thing can be the harder option, but it's always the right option, and implores his people to do the same. So, like, you know, that's a nice thing to say. I think
vibe
that's a
with
good
that.
thing. I vibe with that. He sends, he also says that he sends out missionaries to spread Buddhism and to help Buddhists in the far corners of the empire. He also says all religions should be practiced everywhere, but be wary. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I just like had to move away from the microphone because I had to do a burp. So
Beautiful. Well, so
we're not
beautiful.
even drinking champagne.
I know.
It's
What the
just like,
fuck?
oh, that's a wine burp.
He goes, yeah, all religions should be practiced everywhere, but be wary of people, especially those with excess, as they probably aren't as holy as you think.
Interesting.
But I do love that, like, you know, and Buddhism is quite like that, you know, be accepting of everyone. And I think that's a great way to be. He's telling his people, doesn't matter if like you're like, obviously he wants all of his people to be Buddhist. He's making that pretty clear. But, you know, when you
I
come
really
across,
liked the idea as well of all religions should be practiced everywhere.
yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, like
that's how it should be.
Yeah.
You should be allowed to practice whatever the fuck you want, as long as you're not being a bad person, you're not harming anyone. I think that's the whole point, right? And he goes, respect your servants, your teachers, and those below you. So again, another very Buddhist kind of teaching kind of thing. He goes, fame and glory means little. And yeah, basically that's the gist. So these, like, but he, like, I've read them and I read the translations of them, and they do sound very emotional. And he kind of, the way that he kind of says it, it's like, I've done all these things, but I'm doing it. I'm not just doing it because I'm telling you to do it or I'm trying to be the nice guy. I legitimately believe this.
Yeah.
And I am trying to do the good for you. And which I thought is super interesting.
And I'm trying to make up for all this fucked
No,
stuff that I did before.
Totally. And if you, it's like two sides of a coin. You've got this side of him. It was just like, respect everyone, respect your elders, respect your servants. I don't know how many ancient cultures I've heard that
leaders, anyone, anywhere
have ever publicly said something like that.
Was like, have servants, but make sure that you respect them.
Yeah, yeah. And anyone below you, basically, which is just really interesting. What's also cool is that he explicitly mentions a whole bunch of Hellenistic rulers from the same period that he clearly had a connection with, knew about, traded with, or boarded with, but mentions them by their names at the time. And they are people that were around at the time or around that time. So he mentions Ptolemy, King, I don't know how to say this, King Antiochus, maybe? I don't know.
Don't ask me.
Sure, we'll go with that. Alexander the Great and others. So, and he explicitly like talks about them, like at the end of it, by name. So he uses
He was obviously in contact
with them. Yeah. And I think we forget that. We forget that trade was, I love a bit of trade. It's like, that's my thing.
I do love trade.
How
are we going to do an episode on trade? That's somehow exciting.
Yeah,
we could do an
anyway.
episode on like the craziest stuff that was traded in ancient history or something like
That could be cool. That could be a good one. I also just wanted to have I really quickly wanted to mention this. And funnily enough, we
do
talk
it
about
quickly
trade.
because I really need to do a wee. So
Okay. I was randomly looking at this thing online today, just randomly, and they found, I don't know when it was relatively recently, I think within the past 5 years, maybe even sooner than that. They found the oldest pet cemetery. It's not in
Shit.
India, but I think of trade because it's in a place called, I always thought it was Belle and Raquel, but it's also called Belle and Raquel, I think.
Okay.
And it's a part of Egypt, but it's a very southern eastern part where the Red Sea is. And it's a little port city. And I had to do a lot of research on that when I was doing my thesis on the trade between the Roman Empire and India. And that was like a major trading hub that sailed took all these goods back and forth from India, like to India and from India to the Roman Empire. And it came through Belle and Raquel or Belle and Raquel. It stopped in Egypt and then it came through into the Mediterranean and out into the Roman Empire. And in that trade city, that port city, sorry, they found a lot of Indian archaeology there, which is something that I did in my research. But they also found the oldest pet cemetery there recently.
That's fucking amazing.
That's almost 2,000 years old.
What kind of animals?
So they were cats and dogs. A lot of them are cats.
Yeah. That part of the world, obviously.
But also monkeys.
Interesting.
Piglets. What else was there? Piglets.
Piglets are cute.
And they think that it was not just an offering site. So, a lot of people in Egypt, a lot of cultures everywhere actually, would sacrifice animals, but they think that it was actually a cemetery because these animals were like really old. Some of the dogs had like no teeth, like as in they were like old dogs and old cats. They had collars made out of beads and like beautiful grave goods buried with them, and they were like very well cared for. They were, some of them, I think one of the cats they found was like really delicately, not mummified. None of them were mummified, by the way.
Okay.
None of them were, but was like kind of shrouded in like leaves.
Yeah.
Coffins were made for these.
Wow.
Yeah. And there were hundreds. I think there was over 500 animals in this pet cemetery.
Interesting.
And they think just due to how the animals, when they were excavating them and just what good health they were, and they were old, like they weren't, and some of them were like smaller dogs, so they wouldn't have been used as working dogs. They would have been pets, you know what I mean? Or lame animals that had...
Even back then they had smaller dogs?
Yeah, so as in like maybe runts of the litter,
right.
Who maybe he would just, couldn't do the working, being a working dog, but were great, pets.
20 seconds.
Anyway, that's all I've got.
And that's
all I have.
The end of this episode.
That's the end of this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please like and subscribe.
Please.
And please comment on this if you like it or if you don't like it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And if you want anything more.
If you have suggestions, let us know.
Please let us know. It helps us a lot.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.